The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with beings from 12 different worlds. Some walked on 4 legs, others floated in the air. Some had scales, others had fur. But today, they all looked at the same thing. A tall creature with gray skin and red eyes standing at the speaker's platform. Chancellor Vexitar of the Vorthak Empire held up a small device. "Council members," he said in a voice that sounded like metal scraping stone, "what I show you today will shock you all." Ji-won Kim sat in the human section, her dark eyes watching every movement. She was the only human in the room, sent from Earth to speak for her people. Something felt wrong about this meeting. The Vorthak had called for an emergency session, but they would not tell anyone why. "Play the recording," Vexitar commanded. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed human soldiers on a planet called Kepler 7. They were carrying strange weapons that glowed with green light. The recording showed them testing these weapons on captured alien prisoners. The aliens screamed as their bodies melted away. Gasps filled the room. Several council members stepped back in fear. The Zorbian representative covered his eyes with his tentacles. "This was recorded 3 days ago," Vexitar said. "The humans are making bioweapons. They plan to use them against
all of us."
Ji-won stood up quickly. "That is not true. Humans do not make such weapons. We follow all galactic laws about silence." The council speaker, a large bird-like alien called Thekmor, spread his wings. "You will have your turn to speak, human." Vexitar smiled, showing teeth like broken glass. "There is more evidence." He showed documents that seemed to be from human military bases. They talked about plans to attack alien worlds. They mentioned creating diseases that would kill only non-humans. "Where did you get these?" Ji-won asked, her voice staying calm even, though her heart was beating fast. "Our spies have been watching human space for months," Vexitar replied. "We suspected something was wrong when your people started building more ships. Now we know why." In the back corner of the hall, an old alien sat quietly. His name was Zephyrim, and he was older than anyone else in the room. His people, the Alterians, had been in space longer than any other race. They remembered things that others had forgotten. As Zephyrim watched the evidence, his ancient memories stirred. Long ago, his grandfather had told him stories about rules that were older than the council itself. One rule stood out above all others: never lie to the humans. Never trick them. Never make them think you are their friend when you are their enemy. "Why?" young Zephyrim had asked his grandfather many years ago. "Because," the old Alterian had said, "humans are different from us. When you lie to most beings, they get angry or sad. When you lie to humans, something else happens, something that makes them very dangerous." Now, watching Vexitar present his evidence, Zephyrim felt cold fear in his chest. He could see small signs that the evidence was fake. The timestamps did not match. The human voices in the recording sounded wrong. The documents had the wrong kind of paper, but the other council members did not see these things. They were too scared by what they were seeing. "What do you want us to do?" asked the Centauri representative. "We must stop the humans before they can use these weapons," Vexitar said. "I propose a complete blockade of human space. No ships in or out. No communication with their worlds. We must protect the galaxy." The vote came quickly. 10 species voted yes. Only the Alterians voted no. The humans, of course, could not vote on a matter concerning themselves. Ji-won stood again. "Council members, please, let me contact my government. Let us prove that these accusations are wrong. Give us time to—" "Time is what we do not have," Vexitar interrupted. "Even now, human ships might be loading these weapons. The blockade begins immediately." As the council members filed out of the hall, Ji-won tried to reach her communication device, but it was already too late. Vorthak ships had surrounded the council station. No messages could get in or out of human space. Zephyrim approached her, slowly. "Young human," he said in a whisper, "I am sorry for what is about to happen." "What do you mean?" Ji-won asked. The old Altarian looked around to make sure no one was listening. My people have stories. Very old stories. They say there is a rule that should never be broken. Never deceive your kind. Never lie to humans and make them believe the lie is truth. Why? What happens if someone breaks this rule? Zephrim's eyes were full of sadness. The stories say that humans become something else. Something that cannot be stopped or reasoned with. Something that turns the liar's own tricks against them. That sounds like old superstition, Jiwan said, but her voice was uncertain. Perhaps, Zephrim replied, but the Vorthak have just lied to the entire galaxy about your people. They have made us all believe that humans are evil when they are not. If the old stories are true. He did not finish his sentence. He just walked away, leaving Jiwan alone in the empty hall. Far away on a mining ship hidden behind Kepler-7's largest moon, Vorthak workers were already starting to dig. They had found rare crystals that could power their ships for centuries. With humans blocked from their own space, no one would know about the mining operation. Vextar's plan was working perfectly. Soon the Vorthak would be the richest species in the galaxy. And all it had cost was a few fake recordings and some forged documents. But as the first human colony lost contact with Earth, something began to change. In research stations across human space, scientists noticed strange readings on their instruments. Human brain patterns were shifting in ways they had never seen before. On Earth, President Insu Park received the last message from the Council before all communication stopped. As he read about the accusations and the blockade, his advisors noticed something odd. The president's voice became very calm. Too calm. Sir, his aide Young Honam asked, what are your orders? President Park was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Wake up Admiral Lim. Tell her to prepare the Deep Space Fleet, the one that officially does not exist. Sir, should we try to contact the Council? Try to explain that the charges are false? No, the president said softly. They have chosen to believe lies about us. Let us see how well that works out for them. In the darkness of space, human ships that had been hidden for years began to power up their engines. The galaxy was about to learn why the old rule existed and why it should never have been broken. 3 weeks had passed since the blockade began. Vorthak ships surrounded every human world like a metal net. No human vessel could leave their space. No message could reach the outside galaxy. On Harmony Station, a mining colony orbiting a gas giant, Soman Lee watched the Vorthak ships through her office window. She was the station administrator, responsible for 3,000 human miners and their families. The ships had been there for days, just watching. Administrator Lee, her assistant, called from the communication desk. We are getting strange readings from the station's sensors. Soman walked over to look at the displays. What kind of readings? Movement on the dark side of the moon. Large machinery. It started 2 days ago. Soman felt her stomach tighten. The moon had no human bases. It was just rock and ice, useful, for nothing. Show me the detailed scans. The images made her breath catch. Massive mining equipment was carved into the moon's surface. Vorthak symbols marked every machine. Huge tunnels disappeared deep into the rock. They are mining our moon, she whispered. They are stealing from us. But that was not the worst part. As she watched the live feed, she saw something that made her hands shake. The mining equipment was not new. The tunnels were not fresh. This operation had been going on for months. Get me Captain Doyen Park on the new Sol, she ordered. Ma'am, the communications blackout. Use the emergency mining frequency. Make it look like equipment maintenance. Captain Doyen Park's voice came through, filled with static. Harmony Station, this is New Sol. We should not be talking on this channel. Captain, they are mining our moon. The Vorthak have been stealing from us for months. The blockade is not about weapons. It is about covering up their theft. There was silence for a long moment. Then Doyen's voice came back, different somehow. Colder. Administrator Lee, can you record evidence of this? Already done. but I cannot send it through normal channels. Hide the data in a mining survey. Report. Send it to the geological department on Earth. Make it look routine. Soman worked quickly. She buried the evidence deep in normal station reports about rock samples and mineral content. To anyone scanning the transmission, it would look like boring paperwork. But hidden in the data was proof of the Vorthak deception. The message reached Earth 12 hours later. In the basement of the intelligence building, Hyunwoo Choi was working late when the routine mining reports came across his desk. As a data analyst, he read hundreds of such reports every week. But something in this one caught his attention. The mineral readings were wrong. The isotope signatures did not match previous surveys, and buried in the technical data were image files that should not be there. When Hyunwoo opened the hidden files, he saw the Vorthak mining operation. He saw the months-old tunnels. He saw the evidence that this had all been planned long before the blockade. They lied, he said to his empty office. They lied to everyone. Hyunwoo began pulling up the evidence that Vextar had shown to the council. He compared timestamps, analyzed voice patterns, checked document formats. Hour by hour, the deception became clear. The recordings of human soldiers were fake. Computer-generated voices speaking over actors in human uniforms. The documents were created on Vorthak computers, not human ones. Even the dates were wrong. Some of the evidence claimed to be from times when those human bases did not exist. As Hyunwoo worked, he noticed something else. His own thinking was becoming clearer and faster. Numbers and patterns that usually took him hours to analyze were becoming obvious in minutes. It was as if his brain was running at a higher speed. He was not the only one. Across human space, similar changes were happening. Scientists reported breakthrough discoveries in a single night. Engineers solved problems that had puzzled them for years. Military strategists saw battle plans with perfect clarity. On the planet, New Busan, Marine Commander Min Ho-jung was training his soldiers when the reports came in. His unit was responsible for defending the colony's main cities. But as he read about the Vorthak deception, his mind began working in ways it never had before. Sergeant, he called to his second-in-command, how long would it take to disable those Vorthak ships without destroying them? Sir, we do not have weapons that could reach them. Minho smiled, but like President Park's smile weeks before, it was not a happy expression. We do not need weapons. We need their ships to disable themselves. He began drawing plans on his tablet, plans that should not have been possible for a simple Marine commander to create, plans that involved computer viruses, communication hijacking, and psychological warfare. Sir, his sergeant said nervously, where did you learn to do this? I do not know, Minho replied honestly. It is like the knowledge just appeared in my head. Similar conversations were happening on every human world. Ordinary people were suddenly capable of extraordinary things. A factory worker on New Seoul designed a new type of engine in her spare time. A school teacher on Armstrong Colony cracked a mathematical problem that had stumped professors for decades. The Vorthak noticed these changes, but they did not understand them. Their spies reported that humans seemed calmer than expected. There were no panic broadcasts, no desperate attempts to break the blockade. Instead, humans appeared to be working on normal daily tasks. Chancellor Vexitar was pleased. The humans have accepted their fate, he told his advisors. Soon we will have enough crystals from their moon to power our entire fleet for centuries. But his pleasure turned to confusion when reports came in from other parts of the galaxy. Alien species that had supported the blockade were beginning to ask questions. The Centauri had discovered errors in the evidence. The Zorbians were demanding to see the original recordings. How can they doubt the evidence? Vextar demanded. We showed them clear proof of human weapons. Sir, his intelligence chief said, carefully, it appears that humans have friends we did not know about. Someone is helping them spread counter-information. This was not entirely true. The questions were coming from the aliens themselves as they looked more carefully at the evidence. But Vexitar needed someone to blame. Double the security around human space, he ordered. No information gets in or out. On Earth, Admiral Una Lim received her orders from President Park. She stood in the command center of a space station that officially did not exist. Around her, officers prepared ships that were not supposed to be built yet. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "the Deep Fleet is ready. 47 ships, all equipped with the new systems." "What new systems?" Admiral Lim asked. "Ma'am, according to the reports, our engineers have been working around the clock. They have created technologies that should not be possible. Adaptive shields, quantum communication arrays, predictive targeting systems. The lead engineer says the designs just came to him in dreams." Admiral Lim nodded as if this made perfect sense. In her mind, she could see the entire battle plan clearly. She could see how to defeat the Vorthak without firing a single shot. She could see how to make them defeat themselves. "Begin Phase 1, she ordered. "Let us remind the galaxy why there used to be a rule about lying to humans. Far away, old Zephyrim sat in his chambers, reading the ancient texts of his people. He found the passage he was looking for, written in the oldest form of his language. When the star children are deceived with malice, when lies are made to seem as truth, then shall their minds be open to the deeper currents of reality. They shall see what others cannot see, know what others cannot know, and achieve what others believe impossible. In this state they are not to be opposed, for opposition only makes them stronger. The wise course is to admit the deception and beg for mercy. For the star children, when awakened by betrayal, show mercy only to those who show truth." Zephyrim closed the book with shaking hands. The rule had been written by people who had seen what happened when humans were systematically lied to, and now the Vorthak were about to discover why the rule existed. The galaxy was about to change forever. Dr. Yoonji Han had not slept in 3 days. In her laboratory on New Tokyo Station, she stared at screens filled with Vorthak communication codes. A month ago, these symbols would have been impossible for any human to understand. Now they seemed as clear as her own language. "Computer, run analysis pattern 77 alpha, she said, her fingers dancing across the keyboard faster than should be humanly possible. The breakthrough came at 3:17 in the morning. The Vorthak encryption cracked open like an egg, spilling its secrets across her monitors. Yunja's eyes widened as she read the intercepted messages. "Project Crystal Mine, Phase 3. Complete. Human moon yields exceed expectations. Prepare territorial sales contracts with hegemony worlds. Maintain blockade fiction until extraction complete." Another message made her blood run cold. "Fabrication Department. Congratulations on successful human weapon hoax. Council completely deceived. Recommend expanding operation to frame humans for Zorbian plague outbreak next cycle." Yunja grabbed her communication device, her hands shaking with anger. She contacted Taehyun Oh, the resistance coordinator who had been secretly connecting isolated human colonies. "Taehyun, I have it, all of it. The mining operation, the planned frame jobs, everything. They have been lying about us from the beginning." Taehyun's voice came back steady and cold. "Send me everything. Every file, every message, every piece of evidence. It is time the galaxy learned the truth." Within hours, the evidence was spreading through hidden networks across human space. Each colony that received it felt the same shift that others had experienced. Calm fury, cold determination, a strange clarity that made impossible solutions seem obvious. On the diplomatic station orbiting Proxima, Seungmin Kang was having a dangerous conversation. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Alterian Confederacy before the blockade. Now he was meeting secretly with old friends who still believed in human innocence. "The evidence against your people seems very strong," said his friend Merdak, a young Alterian diplomat. "The recordings, the documents are fake," Seungmin interrupted. "All of them, we have proof." He showed Merdak the intercepted Vorthak communications. As the Alterian read, his face went through several colors: surprise, anger, fear. "If this is true," Merdak whispered, "then the Vorthak have violated more than galactic law. They have broken the first rule." "What first rule?" Merdak looked around nervously. "Come with me. There is someone you must meet." They traveled to the oldest part of the station, where few beings ventured. In a chamber filled with ancient books and artifacts, they found Keeper Veltar, an Alterian so old that his skin had turned silver with age. "Keeper," Merdak said respectfully, "this human brings proof that the Vorthak have deceived the entire council about his people." The ancient being looked at Seungmin with eyes that had seen centuries pass. "Show me this proof." After reviewing the evidence, Keeper Veltar was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of ages. "Young human, do you know why your people are feared by some species? Because we are aggressive?" Seungmin guessed. "No, you are feared because of what happens when you are betrayed. When someone lies to humans systematically, pretending to be truthful while planning harm, your species undergoes a transformation. Your minds connect to patterns that others cannot see. You become capable of things that should not be possible." The scene. Keeper moved to an ancient wall covered in symbols. This is the chronicle of the first rule, written by the architects before they disappeared. It says, "The star children think differently than others. When deceived with malice, they access deeper currents of reality. They see the truth behind all lies, find solutions to impossible problems, and turn their enemies' strengths into weaknesses. Never deceive them systematically, for they will surely discover the truth and their response will be beyond your ability to counter." Seungmin felt a chill run down his spine. What happened to the species that first broke this rule? They learned to tell only truth to humans, or they ceased to exist as independent civilizations. Meanwhile, on dozens of human worlds, the transformation was accelerating. In university laboratories, students were making discoveries that should have taken research teams years to achieve. In military academies, cadets were developing strategies that veteran generals called impossible but perfect. On New Busan, Commander Min Ho-young was implementing one of these impossible strategies. His Marines had quietly taken positions around the planet's communication arrays. Not to destroy them, but to modify them. "Sir," his technical sergeant reported, "we have successfully installed the modifications. When you give the word, every Vorthak ship in this system will receive signals that appear to come from their own command." "What kind of signals?" "Orders to return to base immediately. Orders to transfer their security codes to maintenance crews. Orders to ignore any contradictory commands they might receive later." Minho nodded. A month ago, he would not have understood how such a thing was possible. Now the plan seemed as natural as breathing. "Begin transmission." Across the galaxy, similar operations were taking place. Humans were not attacking Vorthak ships. They were convincing the ships to disable themselves. Communication viruses spread through Vorthak networks, changing orders and creating confusion. Mining equipment on stolen human territory began reporting false data, making the operations appear unprofitable. Chancellor Vextar stood in his command center, watching his carefully planned deception fall apart. Reports were coming in from across Vorthak space. Ships were returning to base without orders. Mining operations were shutting down due to safety concerns that no one had issued. Communication networks were carrying messages that no one had sent. "Sir," his intelligence chief reported, "we are detecting unusual patterns in our computer networks. It appears that humans have somehow penetrated our systems." "That is impossible. We use quantum encryption." "Yes, sir. That is what makes this so disturbing. They are not breaking our encryption. They are convincing our computers that their commands are legitimate Vorthak orders." Vextar's red eyes burned with fury. "Increase security, change all codes, shut down all automated systems if necessary." But even as he gave these orders, he knew it was too late. The humans had somehow turned his own technology against him. Every system he trusted was now suspect. On Earth, President Insu Park received reports from across human space. The counter-operation was proceeding perfectly. Not a single human had been killed, not a single shot had been fired. But the Vorthak deception was crumbling under its own weight. "Sir," Admiral Lim reported via quantum communication, "Phase 2 is complete. The Vorthak have lost control of their blockade fleet. Phase 3 is ready to begin." "What is Phase 3? asked the President's aide, Young Ho Nam. Admiral Lim's smile was sharp as a blade. "We reveal everything to the galaxy, every lie, every theft, every planned deception. We let the other species see exactly what the Vorthak intended to do to them next. Across the galaxy, alien governments began receiving anonymous transmissions, detailed files showing how the Vorthak had planned to frame various species for crimes they did not commit. Evidence of how the human deception was just the first step in a larger plan to destabilize galactic civilization. The Centauri discovered they were to be blamed for a plague. The Zorbians learned they were to be framed for terrorism. The hegemony worlds found out they were marked for territorial seizure. One by one, the species that had voted for the human blockade began to understand they had been used. They had been turned into tools of Vorthak expansion. On the council station, emergency sessions were called. Species representatives demanded to know how they had been so thoroughly deceived. The evidence was overwhelming, not just of Vorthak lies about humans, but of planned deceptions against everyone. Old Zephyrim sat in the council chambers, watching his colleagues discover what he had suspected from the beginning. The ancient rule had been broken, and now the galaxy would learn why it existed. "Council Speaker," he said when called upon, "I request permission to contact the humans directly." Thekmor spread his wings nervously. "The blockade is still in effect." "The blockade," Zephyrim said quietly, "is an illusion. The humans have already won. Now we must decide whether we will admit our mistake honorably, or whether we will force them to demonstrate just how completely they have turned our own actions against us." In the silence that followed, every council member understood that something fundamental had changed. The humans had not responded to deception with violence or anger. They had responded with something far more disturbing: perfect, systematic, unstoppable competence. The galaxy was about to learn that there were fates worse than destruction. Sometimes the most terrible thing an enemy could do was leave you alive to face the consequences of your own choices. Admiral Yuna Lim stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewscreen. Around her, the deep space fleet moved through hyperspace like ghosts. Ships that had been built in secret, equipped with technology that should not exist, crewed by humans whose abilities had grown beyond normal limits. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving surrender requests from 17 Vorthak commanders. They are asking for permission to return to their home space." "Denied," Admiral Lim said calmly. "They chose to blockade us. Now they can explain to their own people why their ships will not respond to Vorthak commands." She turned to her tactical display, where Dr. Jinwoo Seo was monitoring the psychological reports from across human space. The xenobiologist had been studying the changes in human behavior since the deception began. "Doctor, what are your latest findings?" Dr. Seo looked up from his data tablets, his eyes bright with discovery. "Admiral, what we are experiencing is unprecedented. Human brain scans show activity patterns that should not be possible. We are processing information at rates far beyond normal capacity. Pattern recognition has increased by over 400%. Strategic thinking ability has grown exponentially. Is it permanent? Unknown. But the effect appears to be triggered specifically by systematic deception. When a human believes they are being told the truth but are actually being lied to for malicious purposes, something activates in our neural pathways." Admiral Lim nodded. She could feel it herself. The strange clarity, the ability to see solutions, that should be impossible. "Continue your research. We may need to understand this better in the future." On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Heron Yoon was leading a very different kind of mission. Her Special Forces team had infiltrated a Vorthak military base, not by stealth or violence, but by walking through the front door with legitimate access codes. "How did you obtain these codes?" the Vorthak security chief had asked when they arrived. "Your central command sent them to us," Heron replied truthfully. The Vorthak computers had indeed sent the codes, after human viruses convinced them that her team were authorized Vorthak inspectors. Now her team was downloading every file in the base's computer systems: military plans, communication logs, financial records, everything that would prove the scope of Vorthak deception. "Commander," her tech specialist whispered, I am finding references to something called Project Cascade. It appears to be a plan to frame multiple species for various crimes over the next 50 years. Heron felt that familiar cold anger settle in her chest. Download it all. Every file, every plan, every lie they have prepared. Meanwhile, in engineering facilities across human space, impossible things were becoming routine. Young Ho Nam, the engineer who had once been President Park's simple aide, now led a team developing technologies that should have taken decades to invent. "Sir," his assistant said, "the quantum tunneling communication array is working perfectly. We can now send messages anywhere in the galaxy without any possibility of interception." "Excellent. What about the defensive grid?" "The new shield generators are online. According to our tests, they can stop anything the current galactic civilizations can throw at them." "But sir, I do not understand how we designed these so quickly." Young Ho smiled, though like all human smiles these days, it carried an edge. "We did not design them. We remembered them. Somehow, when humans are systematically deceived, we gain access to knowledge that was always there, waiting. The defensive systems were just the beginning. Human factories were producing materials that were stronger and lighter than anything known to galactic science. Human computers were running programs that solved problems previously thought impossible. Human ships were equipped with weapons that did not destroy. They simply made enemy equipment stop working. Chancellor Vextar was learning about these developments in the worst possible way. His flagship, the pride of the Vorthak fleet, now responded only to human commands. His personal computer displayed messages he had never written. His own security systems reported him as an intruder in his own ship. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his science advisor. "Chancellor, we do not know. Our best computer experts say it should be impossible. The humans appear to be communicating with our machines in languages our machines do not know they understand." Vextar smashed his fist against his command console. "Ready the war fleet. We will destroy their worlds before they can spread this infection." "Sir," his military commander said carefully, "the war fleet is not responding to our commands either. According to the ship's computers, they are under maintenance orders that will last for the next 6 months. "Maintenance orders? Who gave maintenance orders?" "You did, sir. According to the computer logs, you personally authorized them yesterday." "I did no such thing." "Yes, sir. But the computers show your authorization codes, your voice pattern, even your biometric signatures. As far as our own systems are concerned, you personally ordered our entire fleet to stand down." As Vextar's empire crumbled from within, the Galactic Council was facing its own crisis. Emergency sessions had been called as species after species discovered evidence of planned Vorthak deceptions against them. The Centauri representative held up a data pad. "These files show that the Vorthak planned to release a plague on our worlds, then blame us for creating it ourselves." The Zorbian delegates' tentacles writhed with anger. They were going to frame our merchant fleets for piracy, giving them excuse to seize our trade routes. Species after species revealed similar discoveries. The Vorthak had not just lied about humans, they had prepared decades of lies about everyone. Council. Speaker Thekmore called for order. "How did we obtain all this evidence?" "It was delivered to us anonymously," the Centauri replied. "But the source appears to be human." Old Zephyrim stood slowly. "Fellow council members, we are witnessing the consequences of breaking the first rule. The humans are not attacking us. They are not threatening us. They are simply showing us the truth about those who chose to deceive them." "But how are they doing this?" demanded the hegemony representative. "Because," Zephyrim said sadly, "when humans are systematically deceived, they become capable of impossible things. They can see lies that others cannot see. They can solve problems that others cannot solve. They can turn their enemies' own tools against them." President Insu Park received these reports from his intelligence network with satisfaction. The galaxy was learning what the Vorthak had planned for everyone. More importantly, they were learning that humans were not the aggressors in this situation. "Sir," Admiral Lim reported from the Deep Space Fleet, "we are ready to begin the final phase. The Vorthak home system is within range. What do you plan to do?" Nothing destructive, sir. We are simply going to park our fleet in orbit around their homeworld and wait for them to ask us politely to leave. And if they attack? Admiral Lim's smile was sharp. Sir, their weapons have been convinced that we are friendly Vorthak vessels. If they fire on us, they will be firing on themselves according to their own targeting systems. The final phase began 12 hours later. The human fleet materialized around the Vorthak homeworld like ghosts becoming solid. 47 ships, each equipped with technology that appeared to bend the rules of physics. But they did not attack. They did not threaten. They simply sat in orbit, broadcasting a single message on all frequencies. This is Admiral Una Lim of the Human Defense Force. We are here to discuss the recent misunderstanding about human activities in the Kepler sector. We believe there may have been some confusion about the facts, and we would like to help clear things up. On the planet below, panic spread through Vorthak society. Their mighty fleet was helpless. Their weapons would not fire. Their computers obeyed human commands. And above them, the humans waited with polite patience for someone to admit what everyone already knew. Chancellor Vextar sat in his office, staring at a communication device that would only display one message. We are ready to talk when you are ready to tell the truth. For the first time in his life, the Chancellor of the Vorthak Empire understood what it meant to be completely, utterly defeated without a single shot being fired. The humans had not conquered his empire. They had simply made it impossible for him to lie anymore. And somehow that was far more terrifying than any military defeat could have been. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so full. Representatives from every known species packed the Great Hall, all waiting to witness something that had never happened before. The trial of an entire empire for systematic deception. President Insu Park walked to the human speaking platform, his steps calm and measured. Behind him sat the evidence that would change galactic law forever. Not evidence of human crimes, but evidence of the lies told about humanity. Ambassador Sunho Lee, Earth's new representative to the Council, activated the holographic displays. Honored Council members, he began. We come before you not to seek revenge, but to seek truth. The first display showed the original Vorthak accusations, the faked recordings, the forged documents, the false evidence that had convinced the galaxy to blockade human space. The second display showed the reality, intercepted Vorthak communications revealing the months of planning, the illegal mining operations, the systematic theft from human worlds. The third display was the most damning. Of all, Project Cascade, the Vorthak planned to frame every major species in the galaxy for crimes over the next 50 years. The deception was not just about humans, Ambassador Lee continued. It was about all of us. The Vorthak intended to use lies to reshape the galaxy according to their desires. Gasps filled the chamber as species representatives saw their own names in the Vorthak files. The Centauri plague frame job, the Zorbian piracy accusations, the hegemony territorial seizures. Every species had been marked for deception. Chancellor Vextar stood in the prisoners section, his gray skin looking almost green under the chamber lights. His empire's fleets hung powerless in space, controlled by human computers that treated them as maintenance cases requiring indefinite repair. The evidence is fabricated, he shouted. Humans have somehow altered our communications. General Minji Quan, Earth's military strategist, approached the evidence display calmly. Chancellor, would you like to verify the authenticity of these files? She activated a quantum verification system that every council member recognized as tamper-proof. One by one, the Vorthak communications were confirmed as genuine, unaltered, and bearing valid Vorthak security signatures. These files were created by your own people, on your own systems, using your own security protocols, General Quan said quietly. The only fabrication here was your evidence against humanity. The ancient Keeper Altarian, Veltar the Silver, rose from his seat in the observer section. Council Speaker Thekmore immediately recognized him, spreading his wings in respect. Honored Keeper, you wish to address the Council? I do. The ancient being's voice carried across the chamber like distant thunder. Council members, you are witnessing something that has not occurred for over 2 million years. You are seeing what happens when someone breaks the first rule of galactic civilization. Murmurs filled the chamber. Many species had heard hints of ancient rules, but few knew the details. Keeper Veltar activated his own holographic display, showing symbols older than any current civilization. Long ago, the architects who came before us established fundamental laws for spacefaring species. The most important was this: never systematically deceive the humans. Why? Asked the Centauri representative. What makes humans so special? They are connected to deeper patterns of reality in ways other species are not, the Keeper explained. When humans are told systematic lies while believing they are hearing truth, their minds access capabilities that should not be possible. They see through all deceptions, solve impossible problems, and turn their enemies' strengths into weaknesses. He gestured to the human delegation. Notice their behavior since the deception began. They have not attacked. They have not threatened. They have not destroyed. Instead, they have made it impossible for their enemies to continue lying. They have turned Vorthak computers into truth-telling devices. They have made Vorthak weapons refuse to fire on innocent targets. They have transformed military tools into instruments of honesty. President Park stepped forward. Honored Council, we did not come here for conquest or revenge. We came to restore truth to galactic civilization. He activated another display, this one showing the current state of Vorthak military assets. Every ship, every weapon, every computer system now responded only to commands that were completely honest. Vorthak officers could not give orders based on lies. Vorthak computers would not process false information. Vorthak weapons would not fire on targets that had committed no crimes. Chancellor Vextar, President Park said, turning to face the Vorthak leader, your empire still exists. Your people are unharmed. Your worlds are intact. But your ability to deceive others has been permanently removed. What do you want from us? Vextar asked, his voice defeated. Truth. Complete, honest truth about your actions and intentions. Your computers will now only process accurate information. Your communication systems will only transmit factual statements. Your military will only follow orders that serve legitimate defensive purposes. President Park looked around the chamber at all the assembled species. This is our gift to the galaxy. The Vorthak Empire will continue to exist, but it will never, again, be able to systematically lie to anyone about anything. The implications hit the council members like a wave. The humans had not destroyed their enemy. They had transformed them into the most trustworthy species in the galaxy, whether they wanted to be or not. How? Whispered the Zorbian representative. How did you do this? General Quan smiled, that sharp human smile that everyone was beginning to recognize. We convinced their own technology that honesty was a core Vorthak value. Every computer, every communication system, every weapon now treats lies as system errors to be corrected. But surely they can create new systems? They can try, Admiral Unilim said, stepping forward. But they will find that their engineers now instinctively design systems that prioritize truth. Their programmers automatically write code that verifies information accuracy. Their leaders find themselves incapable of making plans based on false assumptions. The chamber fell silent as the full scope of the human response became clear. They had not punished the Vorthak with destruction or occupation. They had rewired them to be incapable of the behavior that caused the problem in the first place. Old, Zephyrim nodded approvingly. This is why the first rule existed. Not to protect humans from other species, but to protect other species from the consequences of deceiving humans. When humans are systematically lied to, they do not simply win, they transform the liars into something that cannot lie again. Council Speaker Techmore looked around the chamber. What does the council decide? How do we proceed? The vote was unanimous. The blockade against human space was immediately lifted. Reparations would be paid for the illegal mining operations. And, most importantly, the first rule would be formally reinstated in galactic law. But the new law was not quite the same as the ancient one. The new version read, species that systematically deceive humanity will not be destroyed or conquered. They will be managed. Their capacity for deception will be removed. Their ability to harm others will be eliminated, and they will be guided to become beneficial members of galactic civilization whether they choose to or not. Chancellor Vexitar found himself speaking, words he had not planned to say. I formally apologize to humanity and to all species we planned to deceive. Our actions were wrong, our evidence was false, and our intentions were malicious. He tried to stop talking but could not. The words continued pouring out of him with mechanical precision, detailing every aspect of the deception, every planned frame job, every lie his empire had prepared. When he finally finished, the chamber was completely silent. Ambassador Sun Ho Lee spoke into that silence. Chancellor Vexitar, your honesty is appreciated and accepted. Your empire will now have the opportunity to contribute positively to galactic civilization. You will find this more rewarding than you expect. As the council session ended, President Park had one final message for the galaxy. We do not conquer those who deceive us. We do not destroy civilizations that lie to us. We simply ensure they can never lie to anyone again. This is our gift to the galaxy, the guarantee that systematic deception will always defeat itself, and that truth will always find a way to survive. The ancient rule was restored, but now everyone understood what it really meant. Humans were not dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because when deceived with malice, they became incapable of accepting anything less than perfect truth. And in a galaxy full of lies, that made them the most powerful force imaginable. The Vorthak Empire still existed, but it had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilization that could only tell the truth. Their ships still patrolled space, but now they protected trade routes instead of raiding them. Their computers still processed information, but now they automatically detected and corrected false data. Their leaders still made decisions, but now those decisions were based only on accurate facts and genuine good intentions. Years later, young Vorthak would learn about the time when their people could lie, and they would find the concept as alien, as any human technology. The idea of deliberately saying false things to deceive others would seem not just wrong, but literally impossible to comprehend.